The member from Simcoe Grey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when our PC leader Tim Hudak asked me to be his House leader, I was honoured. I was honoured to assume a unique role within our parliamentary system, and I was honoured that our leader would trust me with this role in the midst of a minority parliament. Sure, I knew there would be tough times, that dealing with my Liberal and NDP counterparts would come with some tension.
Not at all. You're my friend.
But what I did not expect was the outright refusal of the Liberals and NDP to call a want of confidence motion for debate and a vote. To provide some history and context, Mr. Speaker, in the modern era, we can look back to March 1872, when Britain suffered a defeat at Yorktown during the American Revolutionary War. The British Parliament said it, quote, can no longer repose confidence in the present ministers, end of quote. Well, Mr. Speaker, I can assure that sentiment holds true today, right here in this Legislative Assembly of Upper Canada in the great province of Ontario. You see, Mr. Speaker, confidence is a political concept. It is more so political than it is parliamentary. And why do I say that? Because in a minority parliament, the government must be willing to retain and hold on an ongoing basis the confidence of the People's Chamber. The Premier says in public and in this House that the test of confidence will come with the budget. However, she says that this as if it is the only test of confidence allowed. Over the weeks of the budget charade that have engulfed this chamber, it is clear that the Liberals were and are willing to stop at nothing to stay in power. To that end, they have in essence used their budgetary powers to buy off third-party support to pass the test of confidence on the budget. So is the budget a real test of confidence? Mr. Speaker, I would suggest not, because the government has already secured NDP support through promises it will no doubt break someday down the road. In our standing orders and in the rules that govern Commonwealth parliaments throughout the world, opposition parties, especially those who retain the title of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, not only have a duty but a right to move motions of confidence or non-confidence in the government at any time. It is not up to the Premier or the Prime Minister to say which motion is the only confidence test they are willing to take. Rather, governments of the day can declare any measure they want a confidence vote, but they also have a dual obligation to respect the will of Parliament and to bring votes of confidence put forth by the opposition. Mr. Speaker, the issue before us, precluding an automatic vote of my want of confidence motion, is an obscure clause in our standing orders unique to Ontario that requires all House leaders of recognized parties to agree to call the motion for a debate and vote. While this obscure and arcane clause may exist, it is not right for the government to breach an ancient parliamentary code that has existed for centuries. Our system was amended many years ago to preclude opposition parties from abusing their use of want of confidence options set forth in the rules. This made sense when governments held majority status because the result was a foregone conclusion. Or, Mr. Speaker, we are in a minority parliament, and the very fact of refusing these motions when they sit on the order paper is in of itself an admission that the government does not retain the confidence of this House. This goes to the root of the problem we're all facing here in the legislature today. The Liberals have not been working for the people of Ontario, but rather they have been working to protect their own political power and their own interests. Mr. Speaker, on the order paper sits a motion that I moved on April 29, 2013 that calls the government to account for the fact that they have spent literally hundreds of billions of Ontarians' hard-earned tax money to save their own political fortunes through the cancellation of the gas plants. Mr. Speaker, the government opposite, under both Premiers McGuinty and Wynne, have treated the Treasury as the Liberal Party's business expense. Some might call it corruption, others will call it an abuse of power, and more still will call the actions or lack thereof of this government and of the third party to call the want of confidence for a vote an affront to democracy. Mr. Speaker, the ancient parliamentary right of confidence has not been used extensively. It's a legitimate and well-meaning tool for opposition parties in a democracy to hold the government to account. Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government and Premier Wynne must be held to account for their actions in a scandal that is arguably the largest our country has ever seen. Ontarians deserve a government that puts their interests ahead of Liberal politics and the Liberal Party. And my colleagues and my Deputy House Leader, Steve Clark, tabled this Opposition Day motion today to shame the government and the NDP into explaining why the Liberals and the NDP are blocking a vote on this scandal-plagued government. Is the price for the NDP support so low, that Leader Andrea Horwath and her NDP colleagues could be bought with some trinkets in a budget to get so-called results for people? You want to talk about results for people? How about calling a motion that would help to rid the people of this scandal-plagued government and restore the people's faith in their political system? Is the price so low for the NDP support that Leader Andrea Horwath is willing to look the other way while Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne buy an election? And then bury the scandal by blocking the access to the truth and burying the numbers deep in the books. Ontarians deserve better, Mr. Speaker. Ontarians deserve a say. Does the NDP still have confidence in the Liberals? Does the Progressive Conservative Party still have confidence in the Liberals? And do Liberals who actually look at themselves in the mirror after what they've done still have confidence? I suspect, Mr. Speaker, when all consider the huge waste of money on the gas plants, Orange, eHealth, and the subsequent gas plant cover-up, the answer will be a resounding no. We do not have confidence in this government. As PC leader Tim Hudak said yesterday at the Justice Committee, if the Liberals were willing to spend the money they did to win the 2011 election, not with party money, but with the people's money, how can you trust that they will not do it again and again and again? Every extra day the Liberals remain in charge not only means more lost jobs, more out-of-control spending and more debt, but it means another day that Ontarians see their elected officials letting a government off the hook for the largest scandal in Canadian history. The real question here today, Mr. Speaker, is how will the NDP square their position of propping up such a scandal-plagued government? Any student of politics knows that motions of non-confidence are common in multi-party systems, especially in minority governments. The way to avoid losing such a motion is either to get a majority yourself or to form a coalition. And so I ask, the Liberals and the NDP have formed a coalition, then let's see who sold their soul and for what price. If there is no coalition, then I hope the NDP will support us today. I hope the Liberals across the aisle, especially those in the back benches, or those dropped from cabinet or never given the chance to guide the Liberals' moral compass, help us to pass this motion and force the government's hand to take the test that parliaments around the world must pass, the ultimate test, one of confidence. Mr. Speaker, there are times when the decisions we make in this place impact history and impact precedent throughout the Commonwealth. It's now up to the NDP today and those Liberal MPPs who know that what this government has done is wrong to vote with the Progressive Conservatives and pass this motion to shame the government into calling the want of confidence motion into their gas plant scandals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.